Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, several deaths are reported across Kenya as heavy rains cause floods and chaos throughout the country. We take a closer look with our correspondent in Nairobi. Also, South Africa's launched an ATM Pharmacy that lets patients easily pick up prescriptions in the hope of taking some of the pressure off pharmacies. In Morocco, more than 30,000 women every year give birth outside of wedlock. A few months ago, 7 single mothers launched a podcast together to discuss their shared problems and to ensure that their children are fully recognised by the law. But first, several people across Kenya have died in flooding caused by heavy rains. The deluge also inundated roads and left thousands of commuters stranded in Nairobi. Hillside communities have been warned to watch out for landslides, and people living in informal settlements have been urged to move. Our Reuben Kiama tells us more. He's in Nairobi. Reuben, from what you've seen, how disruptive have the rains been?
Indeed, the rains have been wreaking havoc. According to the Kenya Red Cross, several people have been swept away by raging floods, and thousands of households have been affected. There are also reports that more than 10 people have actually lost their lives as a result of the heavy rains in the recent weeks. And this morning, I was able to visit one of the sprawling slums in Nairobi, and we witnessed residents who have been temporarily rendered homeless by the raging waters.
The flooding that we've seen in Kenya, how come it got so bad? The rains were forecast weeks ago. Why wasn't more done to avoid the worst?
Yes, Georgia. Actually, the heavy rains started about 2 weeks ago. And according to the Kenya Meteorological Department, they had warned of the impending heavy rains with devastating effects, but little seemed to have been done to avert the crisis. But you realize that issues of early warning and disaster preparedness have come to fore, and a lot of times it seems to sort of catch the authorities unawares. For example, a few hours ago, the governor of Nairobi, Mr. Mike Sonko, has apologized to the public, and he says that indeed it is sad that all over the country the situation is similar, and Kenyans have been forced to deal with a lot of damage as well as floods and traffic snarl-ups. So you realize that issues of preparedness have actually come to fore. But right now, Kenyan officials are appealing to residents, especially those living in flood-prone areas, to move to higher grounds to avert further death and destruction.
Thanks very much. Reuben Kiama there for us in Nairobi. In other news, South Africa's health minister has met his counterparts from across southern Africa on Thursday and warned that the worst listeria outbreak on record is likely to infect more people across the region. Since last January, at least 180 people in South Africa have died of the disease. Namibia's reported its first case this week. The bacteria that causes the illness has been tracked back to a sausage factory run by Tiger Foods, and several nations have since suspended South African meat imports. Nairobi said that it will support those seeking legal action against the producer. On Thursday, staying with South Africa, a court there granted bail to 6 police officers charged with murder and attempted murder in connection to the 2012 killing of 34 miners in Marikana. The group was in court for the first time since police gunned down the workers who'd gone on an unprotected strike. A judicial inquiry laid the blame for the killings on police carrying out ill-planned and poorly commanded operations. Well, South Africa is furious over suggestions that Australia could offer fast-tracked humanitarian visas to white farmers. Pretoria summoned the Australian envoy on Thursday and demanded that comments made by the Australia Interior Minister, suggesting that white farmers were being persecuted and deserve special protection, be retracted. Home Affairs Minister Peter Dutton was responding to South Africa's vow to enact land expropriation without compensation to address apartheid-era land grabs. Dozens of farmers were killed in the country last year, but officials say that white people are as much at risk as anybody else.
The facts are as follows, that South Africa is a very violent society and that many people in the country across the economic spectrum, not just farmers, experience unacceptably high levels of serious and violent crime. And the point we've often made is that it is futile and ultimately self-defeating to get into a conflict about whether farmers are more at risk than other South Africans. Our murder rate in this country, for example, is 30 times higher than that in Australia. So no one domestically is going to win a fight about who is more at risk.
Well, South Africa has launched an ATM pharmacy that lets patients easily pick up repeat medication. The hope is that it will take some of the pressure off hospitals and pharmacies. Take a look.
This machine is the first of its kind in Africa. It's an ATM pharmacy. Patients can speak to chemists located at a call centre if they need advice. Then they can scan their ID and type a code and receive the medicine.
You save time here instead of standing in a queue. When you wait a long time, you get dizzy because you're sick. Here, you punch in your numbers, take your medication, and go home.
The aim of the ATM pharmacy is to reduce queues like this one in hospitals. The machine is for patients with chronic illnesses like HIV/AIDS. South Africa is one of the countries in the world where AIDS kills the most people. Many here receive antiretroviral drugs that allow those living with HIV to lead normal lives. Batandwa is HIV positive. She's very happy with the ATM pharmacy.
It has really changed my life because I'm no longer worried now about collecting my pills late. I have more time to look for a job. We need more of these ATMs. The clinics are too far away.
The first ATM pharmacy was launched in Johannesburg's rundown Alexandra township. Patients now hope many more will be installed across the country.
To Morocco now, where more than 30,000 women have babies outside of wedlock every year. Extramarital sex is punishable by 3 months in prison in the country, and the majority of these women are rejected by their friends and family, and often their child's biological father. Well, a few months ago, 7 single mothers launched a podcast of their own to battle for their children to be recognised by the law. Our correspondent sent us this report.
A podcast for single moms, the tool of last resort for these Moroccan women as they bear witness to their experiences marked by hardships.
It was a long road to get out of the situation I was in. It takes time to toughen up. And the radio show helps us to defend ourselves and other single mothers.
The organization 100% Moms provides support for these marginalized young mothers. A daycare is even set up to enable them to work. Most of these young women tell a love story with a tragic ending of abandonment by their partner when he learns she's become pregnant. That's what happened to Miriam. She's now raising a 2-month-old daughter without the child's father.
At first, I hid my pregnancy, and I left when it started to show too much. My family doesn't know where I am right now. No one knows where I am. The people here have really helped me, and honestly, I feel right at home.
Along with around 30 other mothers, Miriam is in a job training program to help secure her financial future. A team at the association also gives legal advice along with social and health support. They also push for the use of DNA testing to establish the paternity of children born outside of marriage.
DNA is proof. It's biological proof. That is not currently legal proof. But we're demanding that it be accepted systematically and that it be free, so that single mothers can use it to prove the full identity of their child.
Changing the law to require child support payments and ensure a brighter future for their children. An important goal in a country where an estimated 153 women every day give birth to a child outside of marriage, 24 of whom are abandoned at birth.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.